You are listening to the Tricorder Transmissions, episode 99. And now, here are Craig and Jeff.
Welcome to the 99th episode of the Tricorder Transmissions. This is episode 99 in our, what we call our regular series episodes, where we look back at the adventures of the original Enterprise crew, Kirk, Spock, McCoy, and company. We've gone all through our original series commentaries. We've been working on the Gold Key comics. And this is issue number 19 of Gold Key Comics. So, by the way, I am your host, Jeff Hewlett, and my co-host, Craig Cohen, is here with me. Craig, how you doing?
Hi, Jeff.
Good to talk to you as always, sir.
Yes, same here.
Any thoughts on episode 99?
Triple digits, here we come.
I know, unbelievable. So, as we stated previously, episode 100 will be the start of the animated series coverage. So this issue of Gold Key came out not too long, a month or 2, 3 before the start of the animated series. So we're leading right into a brand new sub-series here, which will be, again, part of a regular stream of episodes.
That's really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm amazed how far we've come, and it's we're rolling up on 3 years of doing this podcast. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, the Las Vegas Star Trek convention that first weekend in August will be our celebration of our 3rd birthday.
Yeah, very timely.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. So before we dive into this issue, we've got a couple of iTunes reviews we want to talk about here. These are really, really great, and they don't have people's real names on them, so hopefully if you're listening to this, you'll know your username on iTunes and you can identify your review. So the first one I want to read is by CB Spock, and CB Spock says, I just found this podcast and it's a really fun listen. I've listened to some episode commentaries and they are all really great. It's nice to see some high quality Star Trek podcasts.
Yeah, very cool. Thank you for that.
Yeah, that's really nice. It's always good to hear people dig what you're doing. And so,
oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, we got another one here from a person by the name of North of Eden. And North of Eden writes, I am so happy to have stumbled onto this podcast. It's so hard to find a podcast that doesn't consist of young 20-year-old guys sitting around drinking beers, trying to out-joke each other and going wildly off topic. You won't find that here. 2 mature adults giving insightful analysis into Star Trek with nuggets of trivia on each TOS episode, even some diehard fans like myself had never heard of. You know you are in the company of fellow fans when listening to them because they pick up on things that a casual Trek viewer might miss. Just one example, they note that Sulu disappears after Act 1 in a Harry Mudd episode. I always noticed that and wondered why. These gentlemen explain it was his last episode before going to shoot a movie. I just love this type of insight. Well done, Craig and Jeff. Love this show. Trying not to burn through all the episodes to make them last.
Wow, that is just a great review. So great to read, and so great to hear that there are folks out there that have responded to the podcast the way that they have. And God, that review really, really lifts my overall spirits.
Same here. That's exactly the kind of review that I always wanted to receive for this show. Because, we talk about it sometimes on the show. It's a lot of work to put these things together and keep them coming out week after week. So to know that our efforts are being listened to and appreciated out there is really cool. Thanks so much, North of Eden.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, and if you haven't reviewed the show yet and you want to, go ahead and we'll keep an eye out for fresh reviews and we'll read them here on the show.
Yeah, please. We'd love to hear from you. And, you can always hit us up on social media, too, if you have some things to say. We have a lot of really fun people to talk to out there on Facebook and Twitter. So, Craig, are you ready to jump into issue number 19, The Haunted Asteroid?
I very much am.
Okay, so we will give you guys out there a little spoiler alert before we start talking about the actual content. Before we do that, though, I want to mention a few notes about this issue. So our writer is still Arnold Drake. Artist is still Alberto Giolitti, with inks by Sal Trapani and Giovanni Tisi. Cover art by George Wilson. Published in July of 1973, weighs in at 32 pages, and starts out at stardate 2492.5, which is, of course, sometime in the 2260s. Cover price 20 cents. It went up.
Yeah, hey.
Yeah, inflation. I think we started off at 12 cents and then went up to 15, and now we got a bigger jump to 20 cents. So still a far cry from today's comic book prices.
Oh, totally.
That are like $4, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Like $3.99 or something like that for a new issue comic. Yeah, so all right, so we are going to start talking about this comic. If you don't want to hear any spoilers, you want to read it first, tune out now. And we are going to start in 3, 2, 1. So we've got a very strange and interesting cover for this issue, Craig. There's some 3 disembodied female heads kind of floating in space. It's a little bit of a firefight between the Enterprise away team and these 3 floating heads. At first glance, I thought they looked like Medusas to me.
Yeah, no, I would agree there.
Yeah, and did you notice that Spock is wearing a red shirt on this cover?
Yes.
That was very weird to me.
Yeah, random colorist deciding on shirt colors. The more we get into this series and the more these covers start to really pop, I would love to see this artwork without anything on top of it, without the Kirk and Spock publicity photos, without the logos. I would love a book of just those covers, untouched.
Yeah, that's a popular thing for comics these days.
Oh yeah, totally.
Those. I know I have a Walking Dead one, I believe. That's just all Walking Dead covers, but that would be something. If anybody from IDW Publishing is listening, I know that you've been republishing these. Maybe that's another idea for a repub. Just put out all the covers.
Well, I'd buy it.
Yeah, I probably would too, because some of these covers have been really cool. And so there's some Earth-like architecture that's underneath it looks like a giant glass dome or some kind of transparent shield, and it's kind of floating in space on this giant hunk of rock. Wasn't quite sure what to make of that, Craig. Does it look like something we've seen before, kind of almost Cloudminders-ish?
Yeah, it seemed like one of those, or at least conceptually, like, one of those cities in a glass bottle type of things. Maybe even a little Superman inspired.
Definitely. That does look like something from a superhero comic. And I think even the most macabre part of this cover is the fact that they're standing on what looks like a giant pile of skulls.
Yeah, yeah.
That's really interesting. And the red shirt, there's a female on the cover with a red shirt wearing the skirt, and she's holding one of the skulls in her hand. Now, I don't know if she's planning to hurl that at the disembodied heads or what she was doing with it.
I think she was getting ready to recite that soliloquy from Hamlet. And then those 3 heads came in and ruined the party.
Yeah, I knew him well, yes. Good one. Any cover blurb. There's a short blurb on the cover, as always. It says, "Turn back or die, but the Enterprise crew is determined to explore the Haunted Asteroid." So any final thoughts on this cover before we move into the issue, Craig?
Yeah, actually, the stinger line doesn't really grab me too much, but thankfully the issue more than delivers.
Oh, all right, cool. So let's see. Opening the cover reveals the typical splash page, and there's a lot going on this splash page, and Spock has the correct shirt color.
Yes.
In this, so he changes clothes between the cover and the inside splash page. So this is implying that the Enterprise crew has once again disturbed some kind of sacred land. They did the same thing in Gold Key issue 17, where they encountered that band of tribal people, and they thought Spock was a god.
Right.
So kind of a similar plot line. So any thoughts on this splash page, Craig? Is it enticing you to read further?
Yeah, it's just one of those things where, you know when you're picking up one of these issues, you're going to get that page that, jumps to a story point, and it may or may not be addressed.
Yeah, that seems to be a bit of a trend with these issues. Though this cover page, I really like the colors. I mean, there's so much yellow and orange. It's very bright. And Kirk and Spock are wearing these white backpacks that, they never wore these things on the show. And I think, is that a canteen on Kirk's belt? It looks like he's got a canteen.
It could be. But Spock's got it too, it looks like.
Oh yeah, look at that. Yep.
Or is that their tricorder?
Yeah, it's hard to tell because there's no black strap going around their shoulders. So Spock's phaser doesn't really look like a phaser, although that could just be the angle that they drew it at.
Yeah.
But there's a box of text up in the upper right corner that is supposed to give us a bit of a teaser to get into the issue, and it reads, Emperor Maro III had a robot army carve an entire asteroid into a memorial to his dead bride, but the jewel-encrusted orbiting mausoleum became a thing of supernatural dread, and the grave robbers of space, who defiled and haunted world, either disappeared or returned too mad to tell its sinister secrets. So it looks like the statue is talking here.
Yes.
And Kirk is remarking that there's some ghosts, and Spock is telling him there's no such thing as ghosts. Yet. So are you ready to jump into the issue proper?
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right. So once again, the USS Enterprise is flying around in space and approaches a small asteroid by the name of Mila XA in the outer reaches of an asteroid belt of a place called Star System Delta. There is a fairly good-looking Federation scientist by the name of Dr. Crisp.
One of the more uninspired names.
Yeah, that one kind of threw me for a loop. Dr. Crisp almost sounds like a candy bar.
Yes.
Briefs the command staff about their mission. She tells them that Mila XA is a memorial created by one man's love for one woman. An emperor's fortune and exactly 20,000 robot laborers are protecting this asteroid. On the eve of the wedding of Morrow III to his love, Princess Saina, 600-ish years ago, the bride was poisoned by some of the emperor's enemies. So he was not really pleased about that, of course. And the asteroid has been prepared as a kind of a royal monument or hideaway for the new couple, but was completely retooled into this mausoleum with all sorts of beautiful ornate statue work. Over the centuries, it's said that no thief or bandit that tried to plunder it was ever able to get out alive, and there's an approximate number of 320 attempts have been made. So the only one that was ever found was driven insane by his attempt. So there may be some sort of voodoo-type magic going on here. So in order to finally lay rest to the stories of the asteroids and the ghosts that live on it, the Federation dispatched Jay Nordyke, a former Starfleet Academy classmate of Captain Kirk's. So Kirk checks in with Nordyke, who's been at the asteroid for several days. So Nordyke reports that he'll rendezvous with the Enterprise in a few minutes. His personal transport ship is taken into the Enterprise hangar deck, and he is greeted by Kirk, Spock, McCoy, and Dr. Crisp for a bit of a debrief. So Crisp hurries off with Nordyke to have a little chat with him about what he's found, and he gives an account of 3 days visiting on that asteroid. None of his reports hint at anything strange happening. The session ends, Nordyke takes off. Kirk and Dr. Crisp have a puzzled look, not understanding why Nordyke had landed on XA 4 days ago, but only reported on 3 days. So there may be some missing time going on here. So Crisp makes a kind of a grim statement, says it means either a direct brain tampering or memory loss due to severe shock. And she wants to do what's called a psycho probe on Nordyke to find out further information. So why they didn't use the mind meld here, not sure. So they start to use the device, and Dr. Crisp performs what she calls a brain peep, asking some pointed questions about his missing time. So soon during the process, Nordyke relates that he saw something huge floating in the air, and it reached out to him with wet hands like wisps of smoke. He's too shaken to go on. Kirk decides that they must go down to the asteroid and see for themselves. So we're going to stop here and have a little bit of a chat about this intro. So I like the fact that even though Dr. Crisp's name is a little bit uninspired, it's cool to see another female character in a high-ranking position.
Oh, totally.
So I thought that was kind of cool that they bring her in. Oh, she's wearing a red shirt, though. So what does that tell you?
She's on the scientific end of the doctoral arts.
Oh, so I was going for possibly expendable sometime in the issue, but
yeah.
Let's hope not. I like that Dr. Chris mentions that she brought along something she calls microcrystal recordings that have information on them. So kind of like a Star Trek version of a flash drive.
Yeah, totally. The only thing is, in the early part of this issue, did they mention that it's been 600 years?
I believe it says so. Yeah, 600 years ago.
All right. So were these aliens?
I don't know. I guess so. They're very humanoid looking, though.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, if you transpose 600 years from their history, where does that fit in with? It just doesn't seem like there would have been a society that would have been able to create a memorial to someone on an asteroid.
That's a good question. I don't have any good answers for that. I guess we just have to take that as one of those Star Trek mysteries.
Right. I mean, that would have been what, the 17 or 1800s.
Yeah, that's right. You're right there. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they're a little more of an advanced society that can make space bubbles.
I don't know, that it was just a plot hole that it didn't deter me from enjoying things, but it just seemed weird.
Yeah, that is a little bit odd. Yeah, that is odd. So maybe if anybody out there in listener land has some insight or wants to chat about that point, drop a line and we'd love to have a deeper discussion on that. So did you notice that the guy, the thief who survived, who was driven insane, he sits around in his boxer shorts playing with kids' toys.
That was possibly my favorite panel of the entire series so far. The little wind-up duck.
Yeah, and I like how he's just sitting there in boxer shorts too. He's just completely naked except for boxer shorts and some kids' toys, and he's just sitting. So that's what insanity is in the time of Star Trek.
Yeah, well, it beats a diaper, right?
Oh yeah. Well, they probably just beam the poop out of him at that point, don't they?
Oh goodness,
That's got to happen. Come on, that's got to happen. That's why there's no bathrooms on the ships.
yeah.
Yeah. So, of course, one of my favorite things that I keep bringing up in these issues is I love when they try to create new canon or comic canon, non-essential canon, by introducing another Academy classmate of Captain Kirk's. So that always really makes me smile because I love that some of these writers have kind of gone out and tried to strike their own bits of canon into the series. And I don't know. I know there's a lot of people are not really fond of that type of a thing. And I know they disregard all these things as non-canon. But I don't know. I kind of think it's neat when they add stuff in. And they're not changing anybody's personalities. They're not changing any of their past doings. They're just adding some bits in that are kind of innocuous but fun.
Yeah. I mean, when it's harmless like that, there's no issue there.
Yeah. So, anything else you want to say about part 1?
Nah, good setup.
Yeah. All right. So we pick up with the landing party of 6 people beamed down, and I'm happy to report that amongst them is Mr. Sulu. So the full roster is Kirk, Spock, McCoy, Dr. Crisp, Scotty, and Sulu. That's really cool to see Sulu down on the planet.
Totally.
And they start to head off towards the mausoleum. So they, very shortly after, they are attacked by some floating female head apparitions, or these were on the cover of this issue, and they're warned to go back or they will die right there. So Kirk immediately starts to fire on them, but the phasers have no effect, and there's some rocks piled there when they vanish, so it doesn't look like he was very effective at all. So later, they're making some more progress. Kirk decides they should make camp. Scotty and McCoy get the first watch. So after about 2 hours or so, Spock wakes Kirk up with the news that Mr. Scott and Dr. McCoy have disappeared without a word. So the remaining 4 away team members break into 2 teams and spread out to search for the missing members. So after a little while, Kirk checks in with the team of Spock and Sulu. Spock reports that they are heading towards the mausoleum entrance, and they thought they saw something just a minute before. Then they say, wait a minute, there is actually something. And Spock cites zombies. Creatures like the Walking Dead are coming straight for us. There's a scream through the communicator and then static. So Kirk and Dr. Crisp pick up the pace to try to catch up to them, racing towards the mausoleum entrance, but they find no trace of Spock or Sulu. Just as Kirk proclaims his intention to head into the big doorway, a giant floating head of Princess Saina appears, warning him to stay away. So his phaser fire once again goes right through the head, and so the Princess Saina continues to tell them they need to leave this haunted world while they can, or they shall share the same fate as the people who have vanished. So the head fades away, and they are attacked by a 9-foot-tall robot sentries. So before Kirk and Crisp can fight back, the robots shoot some gas at them out of their hands and knock them unconscious. So later on, they awaken in a cell. Kirk's phaser is gone, but strangely, the cell door is not locked. So Kirk and Crisp explore the caverns and discover that there are several doors which lead to storage rooms. Kirk comes upon a room that is filled up with some bones of thieves who had ventured onto the asteroid in search of treasure over the centuries. So we'll take another break here. I guess there's a weird shot, there's a weird perspective panel in this one where they first beam down and you see the dome from a distance. You see little specks for the landing party, little tiny people, and the mausoleum in the distance. And there's a statement that the landing party will take half-hour breaks on their way from one side of the dome to the other because it's going to take an awful long time, and they're going to have this. They're going to have to camp out overnight at least once. And I don't know. I mean, it doesn't look like they had that far to go. To me, I mean, did you think anything strange about seeing them standing at the one edge of the dome?
Yeah, you missed the part in the drawing where it says asterisk, drawing not to scale.
Oh, yeah. That's funny. And, another thing, why wouldn't they just beam down closer to the mausoleum, right? Why? It's not like a video game where you have to start at square one and work your way to the end.
Yeah, another problematic plot hole.
Yeah, just a little one. Another little kind of weird Spock moment. When Spock wakes up Captain Kirk, he says they've got a nasty mystery on their hands.
It's very un-Spock-like. Now, are these Walking Dead? Are these the robot sentries?
That's how I took it.
Yeah, I mean, do they look like? I mean, I know that we've been spoiled, or the term Walking Dead is now directly related to the very popular TV show and comic book series. But would you confuse that for the Walking Dead?
I probably would not have. But I don't know. Maybe zombies never happened in the Star Trek universe. Maybe when zombies are popular today, but in the future, nobody will know what they are. So who knows? Dr. Crisp is wearing red, which made me wonder. I think that she should really be wearing blue.
No, you're right. You're right. Yeah, my main take on it was more of a Scotty type science end of things, but you make complete sense.
I wonder if it was just an inking choice. It wasn't something that was predetermined. The guy who was doing the ink in the comic book just said, I'll just make it red.
Yeah, that's unfortunately, it doesn't seem like there was a lot of care on that end of things in terms of keeping everything, in line with the rules of the universe.
Yeah, it's a shame, but I mean, maybe as the issues draw on a little bit longer in the future, things will get more standardized. I still feel like because we've changed writers a couple times, the artists pretty much hang in there, but the inking guys change, and I think they all had careers working on other comic books at the same time, so it's not like they were all big Trek fans and started working on Trek comics together. So
yeah, there is a cool panel here later on when they're leaving the room that they woke up in, and it's the last panel on the page. It's a 4-panel page, and you've got the door and you got the skulls in the foreground. Really, really cool.
That is pretty cool.
Really cool panel.
Yeah, I have to say, for the age of these comics and the reputation of not being that great, I said some of the artwork in these is really good.
Yeah. I mean, we've had some high watermark moments for this series so far, and I'm sure we're going to see some again.
Definitely. I'm always looking forward to seeing more of these because this to me is a Trek that I've never experienced before. So I mean, I've seen the animated series episodes before, and I've seen TOS before, but I like these comics because it's something, to my eyes, it's fresh.
Same.
So you ready to roll on? Or you have anything else to say before we move on?
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right. So Kirk and Dr. Crisp are rooting around in a storeroom. They examine some skulls they find there, but there's no sign of any kind of violence. They're just kind of body parts that don't appear to have any trauma on them. So they take off to continue searching, Kirk calling out for Mr. Spock when they finally hear some voices calling to them from a locked cell, and they wind up finding Spock, Scotty, Sulu, and McCoy all together. Kirk blasts them free with a miniature bomb, which was concealed in part of his uniform, which is a little bit strange. We'll talk about that in a minute. Once reunited, the 6 members of the crew discuss the situation. Kirk decides on the idea that the secret to the asteroid may lie in the bottom half of the asteroid. Upon inspecting some of the walls, there's a corridor that reveals itself behind a locked panel. So a little lucky find there. McCoy blows it open with his explosive button. Everybody's got one, I guess. An elevator shaft is revealed, and Sulu, who apparently is a former gymnastics gold medal winner, slides down the cable using his acrobatic skills and brings the elevator car up. So all of them climb aboard and they go down about 6 miles into the asteroid. And the elevator stops. The party gets out and they see a vast computer which runs all of the weather effects for the dome. And a voice calls out to them that informs them that they will find the secret of Mila XA if they get back into the elevator. They obey the voice, and after some more downward travel, they get out into a throne room of a woman who looks to be hundreds of years old. She announces that she is the Empress Saina. So, to explain it all, Saina tells them the tale of about 600 years ago. On her wedding day, the palace physicians came in with some shocking news. She was genetically gifted with some indestructible cells that would give her almost immortality. So rather than let her become an object of curiosity, well, the emperor hatched the plan that she was murdered. So she wasn't actually killed. So this went on then she went on to live in the mausoleum on the asteroid Mila XA. 3 years later, the emperor faked his own death and joined her on the asteroid. So half a century after that, Emperor Maro III died at the age of 84. Saina didn't want the secret of Mila XA to be known, so that she was fearing that criminals would come and robbers would come or turn the place into some sort of a tourist attraction. So she would prevent anyone from leaving if they showed up there. The bones that they found, that one storeroom, were of those who spent their lives in paradise on the asteroid. So once again, we'll break really quickly because we're getting close to the ending here. And there was a captain's log in here. So I'll go ahead and read that out. It says, Captain's Log, Stardate 2492.7. That strange world of apparitions and the walking dead has swallowed up 4 of my crew and 4 of the best friends I have ever known. They will be found alive, or whatever foul thing that lies behind it will be made to pay. So I like that Captain's Log, actually. I like that Kirk calls out his friendship with the guys who've disappeared, and I like that he's kind of vowing to avenge them.
Yeah. Part of it almost seemed like something that you would hear on the series.
Yeah, it almost sounds Khan-like too, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, the thirst for revenge. And all right, so let's address this elephant in the room. Let's talk about these miniature bombs that are concealed underneath buttons on their uniforms.
Yeah, well, it's funny because Kirk made a point to address the fact that he was stripped of his phaser, which probably wouldn't have worked on the door anyway, but the bomb would have. So he kept it a secret. I guess maybe he was about to reveal it when she noticed that the door was unlocked.
Oh, potentially, yeah.
And why was the door unlocked?
That I can't tell you. That seems very strange. Unless the Empress decided she wanted some company. Which is possible. After being there that long by yourself with nothing but Walking Dead and robots, who knows?
I got to tell you, I loved the reveal. I was so worried that it was going to be another computer that's been creating something or sitting idle for years and years and years. And then they'd basically just have to deal with taking out a machine. I love the way this issue resolved itself. I thought it was really, really good. And this is one of those stories that I think I really would have loved to have seen worked up, workshopped. And I think it would have made it a great episode of the original series.
Yeah. And, I think it's one of those ones that probably could have come in on budget, too, because it's not overly complicated.
No.
And I'll agree with you, too, about the reveal, because I was really expecting another bald white guy. So things are finally starting to turn around. We're getting rid of these bald white guys in Gold Key. But so any other thoughts before we go through to the closing?
Nope.
So the Empress concluded her narrative with the pronouncement that upon her death, which she believed to be happening very soon, that the asteroid would self-destruct. The Federation landing party made a dash for the elevator, which was blocked by some robot guards. Scotty dives into them and picks one up and throws it at the other one, which another example of Scotty's berserker strength. He did this a couple of issues ago as well. The party quickly jumps into the elevator and it goes up and up and up and up until they reach the upper level of the asteroid. They run through the dungeon's doors, and during the fight, Dr. Crisp stops and panics a bit, not able to stand the pressure. and Kirk has to give her a quick slap and shake her back into shape. So they reach the outside garden and beam back up to the Enterprise. While they're watching the asteroid from the bridge, it suddenly explodes. Dr. Crisp apologizes for losing her cool. Kirk tells her, "Save your apologies until tonight, my table in the officers' lounge." So with all of their tensions melting away, Scotty throws out some weird bit of dialogue. I'm not quite sure how to read this, but he says, "Ho ho, methinks the captain is feeling a wee bit human, lads." So Kirk makes his exit saying, "All right, I'll see what you guys think of this. Full ship's inspection at 0800 tomorrow." So Kirk is big into the punishments, these gold keys. And he wants the place to gleam like a mercury fountain on Mila XA. And McCoy is kind of annoyed, so he tells Scotty that he should have closed his big Scottish mouth. So that brings us to the end of another Gold Key comic. I love the fact that Scotty is a beast in these comics, man.
He picked up, what, a 2-ton robot?
I know. And
he said it's just the way that you approach it or something.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And it's just like issue 17 where he's just beating off the Savage guys like crazy. And he's telegraphing his moves. I thought that was great.
Lifting a near half-ton robot is all a matter of technique.
Unbelievable, man. And you would think this was something that Spock would probably have done. Right, in the show. I don't think they could have convinced us that Scotty did that in the actual show. But and does Scotty bust Kirk's balls at the end there?
That's what it seemed like. I mean, it seemed like they were trying to play up initially, I guess, Kirk's womanizing tactics, but then Scotty takes it in a whole different direction.
Yeah, he says he thinks Kirk is acting like a girl. I don't get it. That's a little bit strange. So some of these characters are a little bit off, I think.
Yeah. And also, some of the treatment of Dr. Crisp is a little problematic for me as well. It seems to me like that is something you really wouldn't have seen on a Star Trek episode.
Perhaps not. And I another thing, I think that whole shaking and slapping thing probably was a bad choice because...
Totally. Yeah, I mean, it made her look like the damsel in distress, and it almost speaks down to the idea that these people go through Starfleet and go through training, and she would lose her mind so quickly.
Seeing as how we had some really strong female characters in a couple of the past issues, it kind of struck me as odd that they chose to go in a different direction. And Dr. Crisp was a pretty strong female character right up until that point.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. It was kind of a switch up that I wasn't expecting to happen. And then when it did happen, I was like, I probably wouldn't have written that if it was me.
Mm-hmm.
But any other thoughts on the closing?
No, I mean, I really, aside from those problematic elements, I really thought that the reveal and the wrap up of this issue, it was really cool. And again, it's something I think the concept would have really would have played well on TV.
Yeah, I agree. This would have made an interesting TV episode, but I'm not as enthusiastic about this issue as you are. It feels kind of like a longer slog to me where not a lot really happens. I didn't feel like the ending was that compelling to me. Like, it was interesting, but wouldn't rank it above my favorites in the Gold Key series. But it's great that we can disagree on these things.
Yeah, I think mine was really more based on the fact that, like you said, we didn't get the reveal of the bald white guy or computer that had been programmed to carry out orders after its master or programmer had moved on. So that might be what I really dug, and I think conceptually I just really I really dug what they tried.
Yeah, no, I can understand. Those are good points too. Yeah, they kind of went a little bit outside of what we'd seen in Gold Key before. I like the fact that it wasn't a robot or a computer. It wasn't like a mad scientist or anything. Some of the typical tropes that we see. So yeah, it's cool that it was different. I have to give it the tip of the hat for that.
Cool.
I think I'm going to have to give this, as much as I want to give this a non-canon essential for introducing some new comic book canon.
Yeah, like even the little crystal reader, the flash drive.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go against my better judgment, and because they introduce a former classmate of Kirk's from the academy, and some new technology in the microcrystals and the brain reading stuff, I think I'll throw a non-canon essential at this one.
Nice, right on.
Yeah, you too?
Yeah.
All right, excellent. So once again, this draws us to a close of another episode of the Tricorder Transmissions. Craig, we're standing on the precipice of going triple digits, as you said. So episode 100, man.
Yeah, and we'll be exploring some strange new worlds.
Yes, we will. The animated series is starting very, very soon. Keep your eyes peeled for episode 100. And you can follow along with us at the tricordertransmissions.com. Facebook.com/the Tricorder Transmissions, TTT_pod on Twitter, and my personal Twitter is J_Benge. And where can they find you, Craig?
Mr. Craig Cohen. That's a Mr. with an MR.
Awesome. And we look forward to hearing from all of you. And thanks again for listening.